Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing the backlog in the marriage visa category of visas. So we're talking about the K-3, the CR-1, and the IR-1 visa here. For those who are unaware, we've done another video contemporaneously with this one where we discuss this in the context of the K-1 fiance visa. If you're interested in the fiance visa, go check out that video. So the reason I made this video, I was reading a recent sort of press release from the USCIS, that's uscis.gov, and it's under the heading Proposed Fee Rule Frequently Asked Questions. Question, how did current backlogs accumulate in the first place? Quote, as described in our recent progress report, receipts decreased dramatically in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, and revenue temporarily dropped by 40%. A hiring freeze and workforce attrition reduced the agency's capacity to complete cases, even as incoming caseloads rebounded to pre-COVID levels. Well, that's kind of like saying we have a backlog because we got a backlog in a sense. But I do get what they're saying. COVID shut them down. Their revenue dropped by 40%. They stopped hiring people. And then the cases came flooding back in. I mean, it's almost a microcosm of my issues with COVID generally, which is they shut down for reasons they've never been able to explain to me adequately. I didn't think it was very necessary. Then their shutdown policies ended up being adversely affected by sort of the system coming back online sort of organically, and sort of an unstoppable force hit an immovable object in the middle of the bureaucracy that we call the Department of Homeland Security, and we have the situation we have now. In the context of the K-1, that would be the end of the story. And it fundamentally is the end of the story in the context of a fiance visa. In the context of the IR-1 and CR-1 visas, but not the K-3, that being said, as a practical matter, we're not seeing a lot of K-3 processing due to a doctrine or sort of an internal rule within the National Visa Center called the the policy of administrative closure. I've done a number of videos on that. Long story short, we don't see a lot of K-3s. But in terms of a marriage visa, CR-1 or IR-1, yeah, there is a backlog, and some of it is from Department of Homeland Security. I would say a much bigger factor in the backlog is the National Visa Center being, quite honestly, a quagmire. It is just difficult to deal with on the best of days, and not something that particularly makes any sense. Honestly, I kind of view it as akin to like something from the Soviet Union being brought back to life and digitized in 2023. It really, the back and forth on it is not good. Interacting with the National Visa Center, not good. The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me because in my mind, consular officers at embassies and consulates abroad should be fulfilling these functions. And honestly, on top of it, it's also massively redundant because Department of Homeland Security is already organized a file that basically has virtually everything in it that NVC ends up asking for. They end up asking for it all over again, even though Department of Homeland Security is going to send their file to the State Department, so they're going to see most of the documentation that's being requested. Again, redundant to pretty much an absurd degree. I'm not a big NVC fan, if you can't tell. But long story short, yeah, there's been a backlog. We're still dealing with it. For whatever reason it came about, we're still dealing with it. On top of that, you've still got to deal with the NVC quagmire. So yeah, immigrant spouse visas especially are going to move, at least in the foreseeable future, slower due to the backlog. I'm hoping by the end of this year, we will see this cleared up and we will not be having these same problems. That said, dare to dream, I was hoping this by the end of 2020, 2021, and 2022. So maybe I'm overly optimistic. I hope I'm not, and I hope we really see movement in the U.S. immigration space sooner rather than later.